This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth, coming at you once again from beautiful Acapulco, Mexico. And I'm currently joined by the one and only David Icke. David, thanks again for talking to me once again. Especially in 2019, in this current climate of technologies just advancing at a rapid pace, especially to the point of this global 5G network, which is what I want to talk about today. So I want to get into a little bit of the privacy issue, the health aspects of that. But before we get into that, maybe we can start off with just what is 5G, or perhaps we should start with how is it different from what we currently have, 3G and 4G?
Well, it operates on something called millimeter waves. It's an area of the spectrum that has not been used for these purposes before, and therefore the impact on people in terms of health and in terms of psychology, and that's very, very relevant, is simply not known. And it's not known in the mainstream arena, and it's not known by the artisans of the telecommunications industry. It's absolutely known by those in the shadows. And I think it was summed up, the whole thing was summed up by, I think it was a Senate hearing I saw the other day, where a Senator Blumenthal, I think, was questioning representatives of the telecommunications industry about 5G. And he asked them how much money the industry had spent on independent research into the effects of 5G on people. And that was it. Nil. Nothing. Not a cent. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why, if you go on the internet and you put in 5G and the name Wheeler, you will see a former head of the Federal Communications Commission making a presentation about 5G and actually boasting that they're not going to go down the road of regulation because it would take too long. And of course, Wheeler was a major lobbyist for the telecommunications industry before Obama appointed him to be the watchdog of the industry. Now, you put all this together, and it tells us something very profound and very important. And it relates to the way all debate is shut down these days, when the debate is something that those in authority can't win. And you can shut down debate by hurling abuse at people, calling them Nazis and bigots, so there is no debate. Or you can simply not investigate information and consequences of things like 5G, so that the real story of what you're doing never gets made public. If you did independent testing on 5G, then their chances of getting it through and rolled out, as it's starting to be now, would be massively damaged, because people would say, it does what? So to stop that happening, you simply don't do the research. Thus, you don't come up with the information that would destroy your plan. And this 5G is so important to this control system, this technological control system that's being built all around us, because they need that level of power and that level of frequency, if you like, to be the communication system of the smart grid world. And, people can, laugh and shake their head all they like. I don't really care. But this world is being directed, being manipulated by a level of evil that is almost impossible to comprehend. And it's a world within a world. There's the world that we live in and we perceive, and then there's another world which is actually manipulating this one. And this other world while people go about their business, is in the process of putting tens of thousands of satellites up. 20,000 is a figure that's often mentioned, to beam 5G back at every inch of the Earth. They're in the process of rolling out tiny boxes to go on lamp standards and posts all the way down people's streets to pound out this 5G because it doesn't travel well, so it has to be broadcast by multiple boxes close to the toaster houses rather than in a big big transmitter that we have now, these big masts. And all this is unfolding while people go about their business, go about their lives, and watch the sport and watch the game show. And step by step, day by day, this technological prison is being constructed. And the idea in the end, and some of them, like Ray Kurzweil at Google, are quite open about it. They want to use this 5G technological grid to attach artificial intelligence to the human brain, to the human mind. And so artificial intelligence would then become the human mind, and the human mind as we know it would actually be no more. This is what we're looking in the face of now. And 5G is crucial because they can't really create this grid without rolling that out.
Are we talking about a global mesh grid that is literally going to be capable of manipulating mankind's minds and emotions, or what kind of a degree are we talking about?
Well, I've been talking for a long time now, before any of this started, about what I used to call in those days the technological sub-reality. We interact with energetic fields. We live in a sea of energy, and that energy is information. If you can hijack or hack into that energetic field through technological information, which you're broadcasting through this grid, then if it's in the frequency band through which and within which the human brain processes information, then you can put perceptions, thoughts, and such like, emotional states, into the feelings, into the minds of people. And this is the idea. The brain is just a processor of information. And if you look at it, every time you think, there is an electrical process that processes that thought through the brain. Well, if you know what the different emotional and mental states are in terms of frequency, then if you broadcast those frequencies, the brain is going to pick them up and it's going to process them, and you're going to think it's coming from you. Why am I feeling like this? Why am I thinking this? I've got a number of people have said to me recently, very randomly, I keep hearing voices in my head, and so that's the potential, even without the connection through chipping, etc., and nano microchipping to artificial intelligence. But when you get to that level, then it's not a matter anymore of manipulating human perception. Artificial intelligence becomes human perception. Instead of having to control information to mold people's perceptions of reality, those perceptions are coming direct through artificial intelligence. There's no human mind involved anymore. And if anyone's going, well, that's kind of crazy and that's ridiculous and that would never happen, well, just go and have a look at the statements of Ray Kurzweil at Google, this so-called futurist. He's talking about by 2030, this process of connecting artificial intelligence to the human brain will be underway. And he's very open about it for reasons I'll come to. He's saying that as artificial intelligence becomes greater and greater and more intelligent than we are, then less and less of the human mind will be involved until what we call the human mind today is basically negligible. It will all be AI. Will be AI computer terminals, really. And the reason that he's so open about it, and others too, is the sales pitch, which is if you attach yourself to AI, you'll become superhuman. But the idea is to make us subhuman, not superhuman. And of course, what's happening is people are being, from an early age, addicted to technology. And it's like, and it is an addiction and it is a drug in the sense of, people start on kind of soft drugs and then they don't get the same high, so they go on harder drugs and harder drugs. And we're being pulled along a technologically addicted road, which goes from technology you hold to technology on your body, of which there is more and more now, of course, to technology in the body, which is where they've been going all along. And it's like, oh, it's the latest thing. You put it on your body. Oh, that's good. Oh, new latest thing in your body. And so it goes on. And all the time, this plan, and with its outcome of replacing the human mind as we know it, is all in place, and what we're seeing is seeing it play out step by step by step. But if you don't know what the outcome is planned to be, then all it appears to be is random happenings and random new technologies and random things happening. But they're not random. They're taking us along a very clear road, if you research this stuff, to the point where the human mind as we know it will be no more. And if people don't turn their minds to anything except one thing, then they should turn their minds to this, because if they don't turn their minds to it, then they won't have a mind to turn to anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the next obvious question is, if this is a global attack on humanity's minds, how, moving forward, is humanity supposed to protect their minds? I mean, what are some of the best things we can do moving forward in order to defeat this, or is it inescapable and inevitable?
Well, it's a simple word, really. Frequency. This technological sub-reality operates in a certain band of frequency. And the idea is to manipulate human perception to resonate within that band of frequency. So if you, for instance, self-identify with labels and only self-identify with the world of the five senses and your own five senses, what I call I am R, whatever label you give yourself, I am R this, I am R that, I am R the other, then that is a very low band of frequency. And it's gonna plonk you right in the frequency band of this technological sub-reality. And if you're within the frequency band of something, then all the information you receive is going to come from that something. But if we can reevaluate our self-identity and stop identifying with the labels and realize that they're just names for experiences, the true I is consciousness, the true I is the awareness that's having those experiences. And that awareness is what I call that point of attention, can be the size of a pea, in other words, a very narrow, low band of frequency within the program, within the sub-reality, or you can self-identify with being a point of attention within an infinite state of awareness. And that self-identity expresses itself by you opening your energetic field, what you call your mind, but beyond mind, consciousness, to a much greater range of the infinite field of consciousness. And that expansion does, well, it just transforms everything, because first of all, you start getting insights and intuitive knowings and just inspiration in terms of seeing things and seeing how things connect and seeing that actually what you've been told is not true and seeing that the world that you've been believing in is an illusory hoax. All that starts to happen. Why? Because you're no longer only getting your information from the band of the program. You are beyond it. So now you're picking up things from way out that actually are giving you an insight, giving you another point of observation of the world you're living in. And from that perspective, it looks nothing like the one that people believe in. The other thing that happens is that when you reevaluate self-identity and you move from I am our label to I am all that is, has been, ever can be, having an experience, the frequency that you start to resonate on starts to expand. It gets higher and higher and higher the more you open up. It gets faster and you start to move in terms of frequency beyond the influence of the technological sub-reality, the technological grid, the smart grid. You move beyond it. So instead of being in the grid and of the grid, you're within it, if you like, physically, but in terms of your perceptions, you're beyond it. So it loses its impact upon you. Not only that, the body is a energetic, I would say, holographic expression of consciousness. And therefore, your state of perception, your state of self-identity, it fundamentally impacts upon the body. So in terms of the physical effect, for instance, of 5G, it's not going to be as powerful, its impact upon you, if you are in an expanded state of consciousness, because your body will not react to it in the same way as if you're on a low band of frequency, really within its area of operation. I'll give you an example. I got rheumatoid arthritis when I was 15. And I was told when my football career ended at 21, after years of pain with this arthritis, that I could end up in a wheelchair when I was in my 30s. And I told the doctor it's not going to happen. And it didn't. But it progressed. But I functioned and all that. And then when I started to get into understanding that the body is an expression of the mind, and got beyond the intellectual concept of it into, hey, the body's an expression of the mind. Therefore, I can impact upon my body with my mind, with my consciousness. And I started using my mind to influence my body. And I'm now coming on 67, when by any, kind of prognosis, I should be, basically crippled and bent over. And the arthritis affects me less now than it did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So our state of mind, our state of consciousness, our state of perception dictates everything, in the same way that you can take a placebo pill believing it's a real pill and believing that it's going to have a certain effect, and it has an effect even though it's just a sugar pill or something. That's the power of the mind to impact upon the body. I mean, I've seen studies where people have taken gone to psychoactive drug trials, and they've been given the sugar pill or the placebo, and they've gone out on a trip. I mean, the power of the mind. And what this system wants us to do is believe that we are powerless, random individuals, and the labels are who we are. That's what defines us. Because if you self-identify with labels, what are you doing? You're self-identifying with the 5 sense world of reality. And the 5 sense world of reality is just feeding you a sense of limitation, of I can't. If you think that you have to change the world physically, then basically this would be all over. We're not going to do it. But we don't have to do it. The world is a projection of human perception. And it impacts upon the world in terms of frequency and the way we interact with it. It impacts upon the experiences that we manifest or don't manifest. Little me perception is going to give you a little me life. Infinite me perception is going to give you a very different and more expansive life. They don't want us to know this cause and effect between perception and experience, between perception and what affects us and what doesn't affect us. Therefore, what you've got is this band of frequency that this technological smart grid sub-reality is resonating within. And they want to put the human frequency within that band. And then you're basically in a frequency prison. But if you change your perception, change your self-identity, then you move beyond the prison. And then you start to see things that others don't see, and they call you mad.
So essentially, deprogramming the mind and tuning into the proper frequencies. Is that a fair way to wrap it up?
It's not even proper frequencies, because everything in our reality is a frequency. It's tapping into higher frequencies beyond the program. You see, if you imagine just a band of frequency, that's the program. That's the reality. That if we're in it, the program is feeding us all our information. We're not able to filter it. It's just what we receive. But you start to expand your consciousness beyond that band of frequency. You start to tap in to other levels of awareness, to greater, more expansive levels of awareness. And in effect, your point of attention moves beyond the program, and you're looking into the program. Now you can see what it is. You can see what you've been in all your life. Or this real world that people talk about. Actually, it's not so real now. And from the turn of the millennium, I was starting to conclude that we live in some kind of simulation. And there was a guy at Oxford University at the time called Nick Rostrom. Nostrom. And he was basically the only one who was ever quoted on questioning if we lived in a simulation. But of course now, lots of scientists have come out and said, well, actually, it does look like we live in some kind of simulation. The physics of virtual reality games and our reality are basically the same.
The famous Elon Musk is convinced.
Yeah, he said it too. So I think this technological sub-reality is actually more profound than it even seems on the surface. This 5G smart grid is actually a sub-reality within the simulation. It's pushing us more and more and more into smaller and smaller and smaller levels of perception. But of course, a lot of people are going the other way and waking up and going through this process of seeing beyond it. But I do think there is a simulation, which is basically, it's an information source which we decode into a reality we think is real. In the same way, if you look at virtual reality games where they put the gloves on and the headset on and the audio on, what's happening is the computer game is feeding information to the senses and hacking in to our decoding process, our information processing system. And so suddenly this world disappears and another one appears called the computer game. And you watch people when they're playing these computer games, you know, with a headset on and stuff, and they're all reacting as if the whole thing's bloody real. Because to them it is, because the brain doesn't know if it's real or not, in the sense that it's just processing information. So if you take that that basic analogy, what I'm saying this simulation is an information source, which is overriding what would normally be our reality, and it's giving us a fake one, just like happens when you play a virtual or get involved in a virtual reality game. And again, if you're playing the virtual reality game and all your senses are processing that information, then if you haven't got a radar beyond it, then that game is complete, and the information that's presenting to you is completely controlling your sense of reality. Mm-hmm. You don't know anything else. You only know the game. And you've got no filter. You've got no way of putting into perspective what it is you're actually experiencing. But because, you know, you're playing a game and you know there's an out there, then you know you're playing a game. And although it may be real in the experience, you know you can take the headset off and it's just a game. What's happened with this world is it's become so all-encompassing, so all-enveloping in terms of people's sense of reality and perception, that humanity, although it's changing, has lost the understanding that there are other worlds beyond this one. And thus they become mesmerized by this one and easily manipulated and controlled by this one. And this is why they have to keep people asleep. This is why it's been well understood for a long time, the fact that this world is not solid, this world is an illusion, that the quantum physics has shown this very clearly for a long time. But you don't see that brought into the public arena. You don't see many newspaper articles about it. You don't see many television programs about it, because they need us to continue, despite the evidence, continue to believe in this world of solidity, in this world of limitation, because that puts us in a position where we can be easily manipulated and led. Once you realize what this world is, just an illusory bloody hoax, just another version of a virtual reality game, then you can start to have the understanding of not only what the world you're living in, but the power you have to influence it, the power you have to change it. Like I changed my body by impacting upon it with my mind. That's their worst nightmare. And what this 5G grid is, and this plan to connect the human mind to artificial intelligence is all about, is to override any possibility of awakening beyond the program. Because once you have basically deleted the human mind as we know it and replaced it with artificial intelligence, well, if you're controlling that artificial intelligence, you're not going to feed concepts to people as their perceptions that involve expansion out there, are you? They're going to be in the program and of the program for the duration, and that's basically what where we're going. We're going to we're being taken to a position where the ability to expand consciousness beyond this fake reality is deleted, because we're no longer using consciousness as we come to know it. Our minds become artificial intelligence, which feeds us whatever controllers of artificial intelligence want us to perceive and believe. Computer terminals. feed the computer what you want on the screen, and that will be the end game. That is the end game. And the point is, this is not an end game sometime over the rainbow. We've now reached the point where we're looking at it in the face.
All right, so I guess in closing, the question now is to kind of sum this up. What sort of words of advice might you have for those people out there who have been red-pilled to this and they realize there is an issue and they want to help try to counter the global 5G?
Well, first of all, there's a few people at the core that are rolling this out. And there's 7.5 billion plus who eventually are going to be affected by it. In the world of the five senses, we have to kick up a bloody fuss about it. And we have to alert as many people as possible to it, because you'll note, despite the fact that there's been no independent testing, despite the fact independent scientists have come out and saying this is a biological experiment on humanity, how many stories do you see in the media about the dangers of 5G? You don't, because we're not meant to know about it. So on a practical level, people need to, A, get informed about it, and then absolutely smack it out everywhere. Because ignorance is what got us into this mess, not just 5G. Ignorance got us in this mess. If we're ignorant of something, then we can be taken down the road to something nightmarish without realizing that's where the road's leading. Well, I tell you, it is. So people need to, stop just, complaining about it and get on with letting as many people as possible know. I mean, you let 10 people know, and they let 10 people know. They let 10 people know. In a very short time, vast numbers of people have had access to that information. And when people say, what can I do? Well, you can do as much as you choose to do. And this is urgent now. This is not, sometime over the rainbow. This is happening now. Every day, this 5G grid is getting more and more into place. So let's get off our backsides and start making a difference. But like I say, in terms of its effect psychologically and in terms of health, it depends what frequency we're resonating on. And what frequency we're resonating on is dictated by our perceptions. And our perceptions dictate our self-identity. If we think we're little me, and I've got no power, and I'm just a human, and I am my labels, then you're going to be operating in a frequency band this stuff is absolutely going to be master of. Yeah. But if you can evaluate our self-identity, see the true nature of the I, that we are the awareness having the experiences we give labels to, then the frequency that you resonate on will vastly change, and it can reach the point where this stuff won't affect you in the same way it will affect other people. So it's a combination of things, really. It's getting ourselves in a situation where we have the power to not be affected, but it's also urgently necessary to override the clear censorship of the dangers of 5G by communicating it in our own ways to anyone that will listen. Very, very, very important.
Yeah. Well, I would agree. It's absolutely crunch time, and we're still at a point where awareness is key. And one of the great ways you can do that, guys, is by sharing this video. There's a lot of great information contained within. Maybe some people out there who's never heard of the dangers of 5G will learn a lot about this and then go on to become, thought leaders in the movement. So spread. Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Maybe I could put it like this to finish. People say, "What about 5G? And what's the problem?" The human body is an energetic field. DNA is a receiver-transmitter of information. This is well known now. The brain processes information electrically. So we are electromagnetic organisms. And if that electromagnetic balance is in any way affected or distorted, then we are going to get physical or mental, psychological, emotional consequences. 5G, because of the frequency and the power on which it operates, is going to seriously distort the body's communication system, electrically and electromagnetically, and it's going to have a long list of consequences because of that. And it might be worth just finishing on this to put it into perspective. This 5G frequency is what, at a higher power, is what US military and law enforcement use to scatter crowds of protesters. They have these trucks now where they fire out a frequency, and the skin is an antenna. It's an antenna. That's what it is. And the sweat ducts are antennas, and that's what this technology is based on. So they bang out these millimeter waves at the crowd. The skin and the sweat ducts decode them and give the people the feeling that their skin is on fire. And then they run. Of course they run. And if you are disabled or something and you can't run, well, you're sitting in a situation where your skin is on fire because of this frequency. Now, this is the same stuff that they want to fire from satellite, and I'll put in satellites up to do it. It's the same stuff they want to fire at homes from the lamp standards outside. This is really, really important, that people realize the scale of what we're about to go into and kick up one hell of a fuss and make people aware that this is what is happening, because there are going to be a lot of people take a lot of consequences from this stuff if we allow it to be rolled out.
Humanity is faced with the biggest threat that technology is bringing, and agreed, this is pure insanity. Information is still absolutely crucial that we raise awareness about what's going on. So I thank you for continue to doing that. You've been doing great work in regards to 5G with that. So yeah, once again, thanks for talking to us.
Cheers, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.